Welcome to Leadership Lunch Chat with myself and Jen Wilson. This is our weekly chat, when we can be on weekly, about what we're seeing going on in the profession and discussing it amongst ourselves, but also we love to hear feedback from you as well as we're discussing it of what comes up for you. And the topic that we're going to cover today is Jen and I have both been to some of the same conferences, different conferences during this conference season, and there's been a bunch. And one of the things of note that has really exploded are all the AI tools that are available to our firms, our small businesses, in order to get work done. And I think it's really important right now to be really having a strategy around this. First off, getting level set on what it is and what your strategy is going to be about it, but also where do you look to start and what part of your services that you offer is going to be taken care of with AI, but also taken care of from the human perspective. Like, where does the expert balance off the technology, and how do we assess all of this technology that's coming in as well and make sure that if we make an investment and we do training, that a technology provider is going to last. So with that, I'll pass it to you, Jen.
Thank you, Amy. And I myself am very excited about AI. I know there are some who operate in fear related to it, or sort of, I don't know, expect it to be this big, huge negative impact on the profession, or maybe even wonder if it'll take enough jobs that we won't have a pipeline problem. Why do we even need to worry about talent anymore? AI is going to take care of it. I'm just going to start from a strategic perspective to say that I think every organization should have an AI strategy, sort of, and all of this is evolving because AI is evolving. So none of it is ready to be set in cement, but an AI strategy, but also sort of an AI philosophy, or value set or something. And part of my AI philosophy is AI is going to help us work so much smarter and do certain things so much faster and maybe better than a human being could, that we should be figuring out how to leverage that, how to use that to our benefit, to allow us to do more relational things, and to do more explanatory things with clients, like go deeper, to understand what they want to do, but also to explain what their choices and options are. I don't think we do a lot of that. I know in my own accounting advisor relationship for my business, or for my dad's rental house business, or whatever it may be, there might not be enough just pure discussion happening, because they're so busy working on deliverables and executing things that maybe AI is going to help relieve. And so I just think, I don't think it's going to replace us by any stretch, but boy, I hope it gets us elevated. And that should be sort of the AI philosophy, is let's use it every place we can for things that aren't really that valuable necessarily to the client, and don't make the biggest difference. And how can we deploy human beings for that transformative, more difference making work?
So, this journey that we've taken over the last 20 or so years to the cloud is basically what led us to where we are today with AI that makes it possible. So, level setting on the fact that it's really important that you're working with cloud applications as a basis, a foundation, making sure like that's in place, there's processes in place, but also understanding the services that you want to be offering. For example, there's so much talk around compliance work going away because AI eventually can duplicate that. But even in today's work, the value in a tax accountant, a CPA, is in tax planning, tax strategy, tax advisory. And that's really where the conversations get very, very interesting with a client and where you can make an impact. What I hear from so many tax accountants is, I just don't have the time. I'm trying to keep up with all the deadlines. And there's a misnomer between what a client expects, what they're getting from their tax accountant, that they think that they're supposed to be getting advice, but that isn't actually what they're paying for. They're paying for compliance. And how you level set those services with the work that you already do. And when you start looking at some of these tools, and I'm just using just one example of where you could really be able to deploy tax advisory work in your business, it can revolutionize the way you work and how you work with your clients and give you more freedom than you've probably ever had before. And I think the problem is we're sometimes so stuck in, this is the way the accounting profession is, versus making time to do the research that is necessary for the future of your business. And even if you're going to retire, even if you're looking to sell out, you can't be looking to sell out a manual business, because the expense for someone buying up your business or acquiring it would take too much expense to flip all the technology. This is important no matter what stage of your career you're at, and that you're focusing in your week on how you're working on the business, not just in the business. And this is a big piece of it, so that you can see the possibility of what your services could look like in the future, and be able to up level those services, and not necessarily take a tax return unless they're doing tax advisory and tax planning and strategy with you.
Yeah. Well, and you said some phrases, Amy, that I have to highlight or something. And one was, I mean, because it got me. One was in the 20-year journey to the cloud. Oh my gosh, that made me so sad. Please, everyone, no 20-year journey to AI. Yeah, we won't compete if we do that, because it's sort of like saying, after we automated with Excel, I still used green sheets and a pencil for 20 years because I wanted to be sure it would last. That would be insane. Nobody would do that. That's not allowed. We have to be so much faster to adopt here. Or we won't be able to be competitive. We won't be able to make this elevation move in our advisory and our relationships and our difference making if we don't just get this stuff in. So that's one thing. Second, this idea of research. You use the word research, and not tax research. You were like, you got to research the options, kind of a deal. I couldn't agree more. We do have to research the options, but I want us to not, this is not yesterday's ERP change. This is not form a committee, identify 6 products, meet with the vendors, get demos, beta test, take 5 years to get it in, make the transition. This is like, hey, let's evaluate 2 or 3 things. Let's have some small sort of pop-up, really quick focused groups that are going to get all over, like picking one and trying it. Try it with a small number of clients, try it with a small number of deliverables, whatever it might be, but don't do this the traditional, overly managed, too much clock time way of implementing, please. Let's go ahead and recognize that we might be like trying one thing and tossing it out 4 months later. And I know nobody wants to hear that with peak seasons and, my gosh, we can't afford to make a mistake and throw us all off during busy season. That's such a classic thing for us to fear. But this summer, man, let's get some stuff and try it ASAP. And, one silly thing, if you're like, where do I start? What do I try? Who do I ask first? I asked Chat GPT. I'm a CPA. I want to implement AI in my tax practice. What are the fastest ways that I can implement AI, and what are the best tools for each one? And in 3 seconds, she told me a bunch of very interesting stuff. And so like you don't have to go to a ton of conferences to get the punch list of possible places to look for both the vendors. And I'm not saying ChatGPT's advice on the vendors is the advice to listen to. I'm saying it's like in 4 seconds. It's 4 seconds. I can get a really good outline of what to give my AI pop-up committee, tax AI pop-up committee for, 3 or 4 places to look that we could transform this summer, and start that as the basis for a little more learning, a little more conversation, and with other firms doing it and with other vendors. And then let's try some stuff because it's super exciting what's out there. It's real now. I mean, real. It's not just tax research a little bit, or maybe GPT's writing letters for us. It's not just that anymore.
Yeah. I think it's really important to, when you're thinking about like a couple tools to test, is to have some guidelines on what you're looking for. Like, what is the outcome? What is the value you're trying to create? Are you trying to save time? Are you trying to be able to deliver service better than you've ever delivered it before? Are you trying to make sure to get the calculations and insights that you have today, but that the tool can do for you? Like, really make sure that you understand 3 to 5 pain points you're trying to solve. And the reason I say that is because with any selection process and research, you've got to have something to test against. Else you have maybe 3 people testing 3 different tools and everyone coming back and saying, that was great. Well, what was great? And does it meet the objectives of what you're trying to do as a firm? The other thing is that when you're talking to these companies, and that's why I brought up the conference season, is that there's just so many right now. And so we want to make sure that whatever company we're talking to, they're well-funded, they have a product roadmap, that you understand what their maturity looks like over time, so that you can, or if they've been around a while as well, what is their support like and help like, because that is going to be the human side of things. You don't want to be just dealing with a chatbot as you're trying to put this in place. So really, really important that you start thinking about what are those questions that you're going to ask and test, because what you don't want is them to lead you on the sales call. You've got to have a process that you're laying out consistent with anyone working on it, questions you ask, pain points you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I love that, Amy. And, asking other firms what they're doing inside your alliance or network or community, if you belong to a community, that'll help sort of narrow the field. I love what Derek just posted out on LinkedIn about, sort of agreeing with this idea that 50% of what you start with here is probably going to be replaced. I completely agree with that idea that it's sort of failing forward or whatever. In the olden days, I remember this with, document scanning, imaging platforms, that if you picked the wrong one, your name was mud in the place. They let us down that. And some firms, they tried scan ahead with documents and it didn't work. And then they didn't try again for 3 years, and we would talk to other firms that were, living life large off of that, and telling us how well it was working. And we were like, why are some of these other clients not doing it? We find out they had a failure and they viewed it like, well, that's it. It failed once, it'll fail all the time, and so they didn't go back, which is nuts. And we cannot have those kinds of ways of being here. We have to be like, for sure, we're going to try some stuff that won't work at all. And nobody's name is going to be mud because that happened, because we're going to have learning from it. We're going to learn more better questions to ask. We're going to learn, what we better look for in the next ones, and we're going to be smarter for the next platform that we're going to try. I also like Derek's comment, maintain your client data, protect client data, but keep your mind open. So be protective on confidentiality, on IP to intellectual property. Got to pay attention to those things for sure, but be willing to take these risks. You've got to have an open mind and try stuff, and you've got to get a committee of people who are willing to do that, who aren't going to be bureaucratic, and they're not going to be afraid to try. I'm going to put, while you take this next thing, I'm going to put in the comments the Chat GPT prompt that I put in I use the very inexpensive paid version of Chat GPT, but I'm going to share my prompt because Chat GPT, and I'm not saying that the vendors are the right ones. We are not endorsing whatever she gives. You have to do your job there, but she not only gave me this sort of list of the places to start automating with AI in tax, but also some vendors. And then at the end gave me a little table and talked about the timing, how fast I could get it in. This would be immediate. This is going to take 2 weeks. And her timing is probably a little aggressive inside a CPA firm. It's somehow much shorter. It's in weeks, Amy, not 20 years. Yeah. But what she gave me in 4 seconds is amazing, and an example of what this will do for us. How to use these different platforms to get moving on this.
Yeah. And I think, that's an important piece, is that experimentation, that play, that delight of what something can do, is enjoy the process as you go through this. Like, this is your opportunity to stand back from your business and say, what would we want things to look like? How could we do this better? And get excited about the process versus like worried about it, as you put these parameters around. And just going back to what Derek said, even if you test something and it isn't, the thing that's going to last forever, what happens is that you start learning how this technology works. So the next one that you test or the next one that you implement, you already have that knowledge going into it of what you're looking for. So really important to think about that this is a learning process and it's going to evolve over time. And some of these tools will probably get acquired up into larger software applications as time goes by. And it's important that we're learning it as we go. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me in my career working with technology, is that when you start working with things early on, you understand how they tick, and then you keep expanding your knowledge, versus once it gets more complicated, it's harder to break it down and understand how a software works.
I agree. So component-based learning, I love that. And there are a bunch of different components. And, I've heard some people say, well, I just want to wait till one provider has all of this package together. And I'm like, both for the reason, I don't love that plan for the reason you just gave, which is no way could you absorb it. The change management required, the learning required, but also you have lost clock time. You have lost all sorts of calendar days and massive efficiency opportunities while you waited. And I just can't stand that. And I, get that committee together, that working group together, get that opportunities group or innovation committee or AI committee or whatever you want to call it. Let them start trying it now. And the other thing I just want to mention in change management, one of the things we can tend to do is we can tend to listen to the squeakiest wheels, the latest adopters, the most fearful people in the place, the naysayers or whatever you want to call those people. We can tend to over focus. We're looking over our shoulder, listening to their every objection, and slow down from it. And I just would suggest that we find people that want to implement this stuff with their clients or with their service line or with their sub-service line or whatever it might be. And we go to work with those folks. And those that want to resist, we let them resist for the time being. We don't spend a lot of energy trying to say, one of my most hated phrases in change management is, well, we're going to wait till everyone buys in, or we're going to wait till we can move all the clients. For me, that makes me crazy. I do love the idea of the efficiency of all of us doing it exactly the same and all the clients being consistently managed. But no change ever gets implemented that way, no matter what you're doing. It's just never all at once. So stop focusing on trying to get, there's going to be some that are going to go, I'm never doing that. And you can't not do it because of them. You just say, okay, you can never do that. The rest of us are going to do it. And then they'll see how awesome it is. They'll realize how far they're missing the boat when you get going, and they'll come along. Don't wait for them. It's sort of like they're going to, if you were on a cruise, they're poking along and they're going to miss that boat. Get on that cruise ship. It'll be fun. It'll be transformative, and they'll regret it next time. They'll show up on time, or maybe they won't ever show up, and this will be their place to step off, and we'll decide what to do on transitioning them out. But that's going to be that's real. And I just can't stand the idea that firms won't move fast enough on this.
So hopefully you're motivated to at least get started today with one thing in your practice. It's one small step at a time. And going into the weekend, maybe just imagine what that could be that would make things just a little bit easier, a little bit better for you and your clients. Thank you, Jen, for this leadership lunch chat. I think we're off the next 2 weeks, so we'll see you in a few weeks.
Bye all.